It is that the world be made fit and safe to live in, and in particularly that it be made safe for every peace-loving nation, which, like our own, wishes to live its own life, determine its own institutions, be assured of justice and fair dealing by the other peoples of the world, as against force and selfish aggression. Woodrow Wilson, the 28th President of the United States.
On the 18th of February, the Revolution of Dignity began in the Donbas region in eastern Ukraine, following a series of violent conflicts. The products of this revolution were the two self-proclaimed republics, the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic, which declared their independence on the 7th of April and the 27th of April, respectively. These actions caused an uproar of international response, as well as the beginning of the Donbas War, which lasts until present. Alarmingly, on the 24th of February, the Russian Federation began its special military operation in Ukraine.
Later, on the 23rd of September 2022, the Russian Federation began an attempt to legally annex the seized by force territories in Ukraine through the means of votes. As a result, Russia engaged the Ukrainian citizens from the seized territories in a referendum which asked for their democratic opinions regarding the annexation of these territories by the Russian Federation. The referendums had a massive success, having more than 90% of the Ukrainian citizens vote in favor. As a result, in Russia's view, this could stop the Ukrainian military operations from legally pursuing a liberative counteroffensive in these annexed regions under the pretext that it would represent an invasion of Russia's territory and therefore a threat to the national territorial integrity of Russia's state. As a result of these referendums, Russia annexed the Ukrainian territories on 30th of September 2022. We see the violation of the UN Charter, the Declaration of the General Assembly on Principles of International Law, the Helsinki Final Act of 1975, the four Geneva Conventions of 1949, Protocol additional to Geneva Conventions of 12th of August 1949 and relating to the protection of victims of international armed conflicts, Protocol 1 of 8th of June 1977, the Hague Conventions of 1907, Treaty on Friendship, Cooperation and Partnership between Ukraine and the Russian Federation, Agreement on the Status and Conditions of the Black Sea Fleet stationing of the territory of Ukraine, Treaty between the Russian Federation and Ukraine on Russian-Ukrainian state border, the Budapest Memorandum, the Ukrainian Constitution and the Russian Constitution. But we'll get back to these later.
To battle the accusations of the West, the Russian government came up with a legal defense that consists of the principles of the self-determination of the peoples, a principle laid down by Woodrow Wilson and later adopted as a valid principle of international law. Russia directs the focus of the international community towards the revolution of dignity, where the people were supposed to express their will of achieving Russian identity, free of the suggested Ukrainian oppression. Putin forwards other historical examples, such as the Kosovo Declaration of Independence, which was widely supported by the West. According to him, this situation carries a resemblance that other countries fail to observe.
In its policy, the Russian Federation has included other legal sources as a justification for their actions in Ukraine. The Russian government further substantiates its defense within the enforcement of Article 51 of the UN Charter, which states that nothing in the present charter shall impair the inherent rights of individual or collective self-defense if an armed attack occurs against a member of the United Nations, until the Security Council has taken the measures necessary to maintain international peace and security. Russian authorities claim that the pro-Russian citizens of the Donbas region have been mistreated and discriminated against by the Ukrainian government on the basis that they're pro-Russian, politically speaking. Therefore, Russia plans to invoke this article in the context of protection of the national identity of the people of the Donbas region.
In comparison,
the violations of which Russia is accused seem like an endless scroll. For starters, these referendums go against Article 2 of the United Nations Charter, containing the general provisions. Specifically, we refer to the subsections 2 and 4, which concern the fulfillment of obligations stemming from international law and the threat or use of force. Another UN document violated by the Russian Federation would be the Declaration of Principles of International Law, concerning friendly relations and the cooperation among states in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations, which formed a part of the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 2625. Moving from the United Nations, we come to the Helsinki Final Act of 1975, which, in its first chapter, subsection A, includes Articles 1, about sovereign equality of the states, Article 2, refraining from the threat of use of force, Article 3, inviolability of frontiers, Article 4 of the territorial integrity, Article 6 about non-intervention in internal affairs, and Article 8 about equal rights and self-determination of the peoples. The preparation, conduct and execution of these referendums in Ukraine constituted a breach of every one of these articles. Narrowing the focus even more, the annexation referendums violated multilateral treaties between Russia and Ukraine. We refer to the Treaty on Friendship, Cooperation and Partnership between Ukraine and the Russian Federation, and within it the Articles 2 and 3, both specifying the concepts of territorial integrity and the violation of borders. And furthermore, we can also mention the treaty between the Russian Federation and Ukraine on the Russian-Ukrainian state border and its first annex, describing in great detail the line which forms the border between Russia and Ukraine.
We can also see how there was a violation of the Budapest Memorandum, which was a multilateral agreement between Russia, the United Kingdom and the USA. And of course, because of that, Russia was a party to it. And this referendum entailed how these countries have the respect towards Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity and its independence. So therefore, we can see how Russia is violating this agreement through the referendums in Ukraine. We can further see how Russia violates the Fourth Genevan Convention of 1949, and specifically it violates Article 31 of this convention and Article 32, which entail the prohibition of coercion and of corporal punishment and torture. We see how Russia was involved into illegal methods so as to force Ukrainian citizens to vote in favor of Russia's annexation of the seized by force territory. There are accounts of Ukrainians being tortured in order to obtain a satisfactory response in the referendums, which again goes against Article 32 and 31. Furthermore, we can see how Russia's referendums go against Ukraine's constitution. By that specifically, against Article 2, 72 and 73. It goes against Article 2 because of the fact that it says in the Ukrainian constitution that the Ukrainian territory is inviolable and it cannot be changed. And in Article 72 and 73, it says that if the territory of Ukraine is to be changed, then that is to be done through a referendum which is issued by an all-Ukrainian authoritative power, which we see that is not the case within these circumstances. And therefore Russia is also acting in violation of Ukraine's constitution. But the funny part is that Russia is also acting in violation towards its own constitution, as in Article 15, paragraph 4 of the Russian constitution, it is stated how the international law is more important than the domestic law of Russia. And essentially we can see how Russia goes against every single international agreement, international law, and basically it is violating its own constitution.
To summarize, the special military operation in Ukraine is considered to be a controversial topic. On one hand, there are valid accusations of Russia by the West, and an entire list of provisions and treaties which Russia has violated with the Ukrainian referendums. On the other hand, Vladimir Putin and his government vehemently defend their position, stating that their actions were actually in accordance with international law. However, the arguments of the Russian legal defense are twisted, and in many occasions misinterpreted in what came to be known as the war of propaganda. Furthermore, if the witness accounts are proven, the Russian Federation will have conducted the referendums under duress, which would outweigh any of the arguments they may ever offer.
At the end of the day, the question begs, what did Russia actually manage to accomplish through this massive international conflict?
The quote.
Okay.
Oh,
No, like
1, 2, 3, go.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so I have the introduction.
So you have the